We're live. Hey guys, welcome back to another live stream, and welcome back, John.
Thank you.
It's been a minute since we had you on the podcast a few months
Yeah,
ago.
I've been enjoying continuing to learn from all your guests. Oh my gosh, that is that is a student.
You know what? There is a slight echo. Can you just say something? It just your voice kept breaking. Can you say something?
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
much better. Yeah,
much
when you were
better.
saying when you spoke last time, the audio broke for some reason. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was literally a student calling about SEVIS terminations. So I've
Really,
got my
right now? Right now?
yeah, my, I've got my phone like permanently activated because there's so many calls coming in. So I was like,
So
I forgot to mute it.
that's good. So the response towards prosay is pretty good then. My main concern when I heard about prosay and some of the myths or some of the topics that I wanted to break down today was a lot of folks don't really know what prosay is. So I was kind of hoping not exactly a repeat of what we did for the podcast, but maybe a lot of elements we're probably going to repeat today, just so that
Mhm.
folks understand what prosay is and how you kind of got involved in that and towards the end we can direct the discussion towards how we can students can use pro
Yeah.
se and file their lawsuits for the SEVIS terminations. So what is pro se, John? We've heard this term quite a lot. We've heard about the tool that you guys run. Walk us through it, please.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, pro se is a Latin term, means on one's own behalf, on your own behalf. In the U.S. legal system, it means you are representing yourself without an attorney. So typically, people like me, I wasn't truly familiar with the term pro se uh, until the last few years. I certainly knew about people representing themselves from movies and
Yeah.
TV. I always had the perspective of, okay, that's like something that someone's in jail and they're like, excuse me, I don't trust my lawyer. I'm gonna go do my own
Defend
thing. I'm gonna
myself.
defend myself. So that's kind of the perspective I always had with pro se, um, and the shift in my education really began through my personal relationship with an immigration attorney. And I know you had him on last night. A lot of your listeners are familiar with Brad Vanis,
Yep. Yep.
but he started expressing, uh, I don't want to say frustration, although frustration might have been there. This is several years ago. He saw that he was doing a lot of group cases. He was doing a lot of litigation, and the government was settling a lot of these cases. And simultaneously, a lot of other lawyers were they were bragging about how fantastic they were. They're like, look at how great I am. I've settled all these cases. And Brad, of course, knew, well, it's not because you're so great. It's just because these cases are settling. And he's
Oh
like,
yeah.
people don't need to pay lawyers' fees to file these cases. If they have some guidance and they have some really solid legal documentation and they have all of the steps that are needed laid out for them, most lay people can probably file a lot of these suits because they settle at such a high rate. They can do this themselves without a lawyer. And so that's going to make access to justice far more
Yeah.
accessible because the price can be significantly lower. And so Brad said, this is what pro se means on your own behalf. And he collaborated, he got with our other partner, Andrew, and me, and we kind of uh, built this built this organization from the ground up, saying, how can we make, again, this access to justice more accessible? How can we give people the tools to do things on their own if
Nice.
they don't have the means or don't necessarily want to work with a lawyer?
That's awesome. So you've kind of democratized the whole playing field in legal sense.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's what we're trying. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
like the Robin Hood of the legal world. So I'm sure. Okay, so I'm going to break this down, our folks, right?
Okay.
Uh, so I'm not sure a lot of folks understand the part of pro se. I think the first question when they hear this is the risks or the hesitation to kind of put them, because again, we don't really have a lot of room for error in this whole process, right?
Mhm.
It's like one, especially from an immigration standpoint, it's like one mistake and you're potentially deported and thrown out of the country. In which case, refiling or appealing, that's a long process, and a lot of them don't pan out.
Mhm.
So for folks who come from that space or place of concern, uh, what would you tell them to kind of put them at ease?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a valid concern from a like logic perspective of like this seems very daunting. It seems very scary. Uh, the types of cases that we take on, and SEVIS is certainly under that umbrella, uh, won't impact someone's status directly. We do types of cases that are commonly referred to as mandamus. That's most of what
Right.
we do. It's not what SEVIS is. Most of the types of cases we do are typically called mandamus, which is an unreasonable delay.
Yep.
And in those cases, the lawsuits that we help people file make the claim that you should adjudicate or process the applications that I have pending. It doesn't necessarily say you should make this decision or that decision.
Right.
And so as long as the petition work was done well, whether by the individual or by a petition attorney, the outcome is going to be the same, irrespective of whether or not you file a lawsuit. It's a
You're
question
just
of how long
forcing
you
them to
go.
address your case.
Right,
Basically, you're just
right,
forcing them to give you a detention. It's just
right.
been stuck in limbo. But all the work's already been done by an attorney. So based on whether they've done it well or not is what the outcome is. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I I like to use the analogy of the claw machine at the arcade. You know,
Okay.
and most people think that when they file their petition, their application gets in a line,
Yep.
and it's presumably first last in first out. I mean,
Yep.
first in first out. Excuse me, FIFO. That's not how it works. It's more like the claw machine. You file an application, gets dropped in there, and the claw is going to grab the one it's going to grab. Uh, and we've got the FOIA data. We've done Freedom of Information Act uh, requests to get the data that shows, yeah, there's not a rhyme or reason to the way that applications are being adjudicated or processed, and so we know that there's no line.
Yep.
That's like that's one
Yeah.
of the videos we did. There's no line,
There's no
uh,
line.
and that's why these lawsuits are actually effective, because USCIS can't defend and say, well, they're just waiting for their turn because there's no line. And so the cases are just merely saying, we're going to pull that one out. We're going to circumvent the claw altogether. We're going to open up the back of the machine. We're going to go in and grab that application.
That's damn. When you break it down like that, this is such an unfair system. I
Yeah.
thought so. A lot of folks on the Indian side who are in the backlog here understand what that feels like just because of the country caps and stuff
Right.
like that. But they have it implemented for almost every system out there. That's just insane. So what all I know from our conversations that you guys support H4 EAD delays, right?
Right.
And you've done significant progress. And then what are some other aspects that you guys support?
Yeah. So the types of cases that we look for are the ones that are pretty straightforward and don't have a ton. By straightforward, I mean the government isn't likely to fight them.
Yeah,
When they see the case, they're like, "All right,
it's a
you got
no-brainer. Yeah.
it." Yeah, and the practical side of that, and I'm going to answer your question. There's a very practical answer to this. When a lawsuit is filed against the government, they have a couple of options. They can try and fight the lawsuit and say, "No, this person is wrong. They're absolutely absurd. They
Right.
should be making these claims."
Right.
Or they can say, all right, well, we could process this application. So in the case with the H4 EAD, where it takes only 15 minutes to process an EAD, what's faster? Processing a 15-minute application that, by the way, should have already been processed,
Processed or
or
fighting the
fighting a
whole thing.
lawsuit that you're probably going to lose and putting in the hours drafting all of the documents and motions required to fight a lawsuit. So that's what we look for, those where it's like this delay that the person's been waiting for so long, and the law is so clear, the statutes are so clear, that if you merely file this lawsuit correctly and follow the right procedures in court, you're likely to get a favorable outcome in a very short amount of time.
Interesting. So walk me through this, John. Let's assume that my H4 EAD petition is stuck in limbo for a while, right?
Yeah.
I am someone who's now given up hope and I decide to come to prosay because I don't want to pay the exorbitant attorney fees that someone else is charging me. So I come to you and say, hey, John, can you help me out? Could you walk me through the steps of the process that I'd have to take from
Mhm.
like point A to like point B
Yeah,
to get,
yeah,
get
yeah.
me?
Sure. And I realize I didn't answer your question about which other ones we do, so I'll come back
Oh,
around.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? Let's finish that before going. Let's
Okay.
finish that before
Yeah.
going. Yeah, sorry.
I have a problem with going off on a tangent and then forgetting to come back. Yeah, we handle a whole range of different delays. Like I said, we look for those cases that have high settlement rates.
Right,
We do everything from, as you mentioned, the H4 EADs, the delays with those.
right.
We have advanced parole for
Yep,
adjustment of status, EADs for adjustment of status, EADs for U visa. That's one of the humanitarian, the criminal based
right.
or crime based um, visa. We do EB5. That's the investor visa. We can do the I-526E up front, cut that down to 6 months, or the 829 on the back end, also cut that down to 6 months.
Oh, is that new? I don't remember that when we recorded the podcast back in the
Uh,
day.
I don't. We weren't doing the 526Es at that point.
Okay,
That's the way
that's a new one.
that's
Okay,
the last couple months. Yeah,
nice. Okay,
and the government is settling those like crazy. So if you're waiting on an I-526E, like come with us, go to the lawyer. Like don't wait. There's no need. Um, we also do where was I? I-130. Family
yep,
based
yep,
petition.
yep.
Um, and obviously now we're doing SEVIS, which is not a delay. It's a different type of lawsuit than we've done in the past, and it's sort of an extraordinary case that hopefully will be very short lived. That this will get addressed and we'll
Yep.
fix policy. But I probably missed a couple. We do some random things like I-824s, I-751s. Those are temporary to permanent, and just some random things, but everything's on our website. But yeah, we do a whole wealth of different types of lawsuits that again have clear statutes, clear guidelines, and so when the lawsuit is filed, if you've waited an unreasonable time, which can be anything from 90 days to you know over a year, depending on what application type you're talking about. But if you've waited that time, merely filing the lawsuit is likely to get your application adjudicated.
Gotcha. Uh, you said that a lot of these that you have are towards combating the delays, right?
Yeah.
So based on that trend, isn't what you guys are offering for the SEVIS a little different from that? Because that's not a delay that you guys are filing for. You guys
Right.
are actively filing to revoke that termination that they've done for this program. So is that like a shift in in the direction in which you guys are moving?
It's a shift in the type of lawsuit that we've done. It's really consistent with our brand and what we want to do.
Okay.
Ultimately, yes, we want to democratize access. We want to create access. We also want to create change.
Right.
And I would say of the lawsuits that we've done, this is the one that's most likely to have the most immediate impact. And so
Right.
for
Right.
us discussing, hey, should we try to do this? Well, number one, we look at the legal strategy and
Right.
we lean on uh, lawyers to give us the information of the legal strategy. And that's where Stephen Brown of Reddy Newman Brown
Yep.
and Brad Bannis of Bannis Law,
Yep.
leaning on their expertise,
Yep.
they say, this is what we believe. And they've done multiple webinars online. They did one with you last night, and I've
Yep.
watched all of those. And I've spoken to both of them, and I'm like, yeah, your legal rationale is sound, and this should be an open and shut no brainer.
Yep. Yep.
I'd say the difference from the other cases we've done is we usually look for that track record beforehand.
Yeah, the precedent, right? Yeah,
We
I
look
remember
for
that
that
discussion. Yep.
precedent. Like,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
usually, Brad will have done a lot of cases, or other lawyers like Stephen will have done other cases throughout the country. And we can say, okay, this is working. There's high settlements. That's what happened with 526Es. We noticed this trend of high settlements. So we said, let's bring it on.
Understood.
The student one is different because of the urgency. And we
That
know that
makes
there's
sense.
a lot
Yep.
of students that can't afford the lawyer fees, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we
It's all.
said we're going to be very transparent and open about the track record, that it doesn't exist. It is different than our other lawsuits, but we think it's worth it. You're taking the same risk with us that you would be taking with one of the lawyers in
Yeah.
terms of the legal precedent that exists.
Absolutely. You answered a question that I had actually. My next question was, I know that based on my conversation with Brad or what I've seen from other attorneys, the lawsuits have already started uh, rolling out. So the question that I had for you is: are you guys going to wait to see what their results are going to be before doing this, or just do it simultaneously? So you've kind
We're
of
doing
answered
it
that. Yep.
simultaneous, and we believe that the more of these that are out in the world in front of different judges and
Yep.
different U.S. attorneys' offices, the the better the outcome is likely to be, and the faster results will come in.
Gotcha.
It's almost like just if a deluge of these would really force the government to make changes more quickly. That's the hope.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So let's go back to that case study we were talking about, right? Let's before we go into the SEVIS part, right? Like let's do the H4EAD part.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
kind of
sorry,
walk
dude.
through.
That was another one of those tangents.
Yeah, this was a good tangent. So let's assume I need this, right? I need my H4EADs pending. It's been like what,
Hmm.
more than a year
Yeah.
or plus.
You shouldn't wait
What would
that
the
long. Yeah.
yeah, what would the process be? I'm now on a call with you, and I'm like, hey John, can you help me out? Can you walk me through the steps?
Yeah, and so that example, we've got people that start after they've been waiting for 4 months for that H4EAD.
Right, right.
Um, and so you come to me, you come to prosay Pro, and you tell us what you said. Hey, I've been waiting whatever 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, and first of all, we're like, I'm sorry, that's not right,
Yeah.
uh, um, because we're people too, and we reckon like I always think about this when I have these conversations. The twisted mentality you get when you deal with immigration, and I can't imagine like the backlog of whatever 90 plus years, like your mind gets warped and you
Yeah.
start thinking, oh, they've only been waiting for 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I'll be honest, when you said 4, I was like, that's not too bad. You know, it's the first thing that got in my head, you know?
yeah,
Yeah,
4 months of not working is like for somebody who relies on a double income family, like
that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
that's a big deal. And so, yeah, I mean, I do always like that. I genuinely every time like I'm sorry to hear that. Um, and then we say, okay, so here's what the process is. It's it's similar at the beginning to working with a lawyer.
Right.
You're gonna we have a fee, so you pay for our fee, and then we're gonna onboard you. So we've got
Okay.
a process. We've got our own proprietary app. So we set you up with an account in our app. Um, and that app is going to be this guide that walks you through each step. So the experience you have in the app is a little bit different based on every stage of the process and where you're at. And it's really kind of driven to make sure that you know what action you need to take,
Yep.
or what you're waiting on and who you're waiting on, whether that's our team to send you something or the government to send you something, but
Okay.
always kind of giving you this, here's what you should be doing.
Okay. So similar to a
But
lawyer, you've got your onboarded. This is your document exchange where you're collecting the documents that you need. Okay. Great. Yep.
yeah. And we use our tools to generate a complete package of like, here's all the documents needed to file a lawsuit. A lot of those documents you wouldn't necessarily see as a if you're working with a lawyer, and probably you never would see any of them. You talk to a lawyer, they get your information. We're going to generate all of those documents and send them to you, with very complete directions on how to file them.
Oh, interesting. So you get a like whole packet of your entire
Yeah.
whatever you need for this. Interesting.
There
Okay.
can be anywhere from 4 to 6 different types of documents. Um,
Okay.
and well, even more depending on the district and what's happening. The process that I'm going to outline, it's a little distinct for SEVIS. So I'll kind of go through the standard. And if you want,
Yes.
we'll come back and say,
Yep.
here's how
Yep.
things are
Yep.
going to be different
Yep.
for students that
Yep.
are using the SEVIS
Right. By
service.
the way, excuse me, John. My
Yeah.
allergies are kicked in, so I'm
Oh
gonna
my
keep
gosh.
sniffing away. So I apologize to you and to everyone
Unfortunately,
who's tuning in.
yeah, I hear you. I feel your pain.
Sorry. Yep.
Yeah, so you get the packet of information.
Yep.
Most people, everything is being filed via snail mail. Most districts don't allow
Okay.
pro se individuals to file electronically. So, we print everything out and send it to you. It comes with an envelope that's already ready to go. It's addressed, it's stamped. You sign your
Oh.
documents, you
Okay.
mail them to court. Every court charges a filing fee, $405. It's standard across the US for federal
Right.
lawsuits. So you mail in your packet with your filing fee, and the court receives that and they register a case. They issue what's called a summons letter,
Okay.
official summons. They send those via snail mail. And we receive those and we ensure proper service of summons. That's a specific legal term, service of summons. And if you've ever heard someone say, you got served or you've been served, it comes from that.
The random pizza guy comes with a pizza and
right, exactly. Yeah, that's the process server.
It,
That's a very common third-party legal service. So we incorporate that into what we do. We do the proper service of summons on your behalf to the government.
Okay.
So we notify. That's when you notify someone that they're being sued. That's what the pizza man is doing.
Gotcha.
We do that on the behalf of anyone working with us to the U.S. government. We notify all the different agencies. You're being sued. The government gets 60 days to respond to that. And this isn't like the token. I think 60 days is the token response USCIS gives people. They're like, we'll get back to you in about 60 days. And you never hear a word. This is a very different...
Oh, it usually goes past the 60 days? Oh, wow. Okay.
No. I'm saying when you call USCIS...
Yeah. And they're like, we'll get back.
Okay. Their helpline, they're like, oh, yeah, sorry, we can't help you right now. We'll get back to you in 60 days. When you serve a summons, the government has to respond within 60 days without exception. They have to do something.
Legal obligation to do
it's
so.
It's a legal obligation. So they have to take some sort of action.
Interesting. Okay.
And with the H4 EAD, that example, those ones are so black and white and so easy. We usually the approval comes in. We've had 2 come in the last week, and both of them I think waited less than 2 weeks after the summons were served, and their approvals came in. And so those are black and white.
That's fast. Wow.
Is really fast for those ones. Our average across the board, the average response time from the time summons is served is 43 days.
It's faster than the response time, huh? Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And most people get an adjudication of their application in that time. That's what happens. Okay. Again, the government looks at it, they're like, let's just process this application.
Yeah, it's not worth the effort at that point, right? You're just wasting time and resources. Yeah. So.
But
you guys should tie up with Dodge. This is like you guys should tie up with like Elon's team Dodge. Yeah. This is like a recipe for efficiency, right? I mean,
I've talked before about, man, should we show them how to like process applications? Like,
yeah, because this is like nice. This is like fast responsive, right? Like 60 days is just to get a response. Now you beat them down to like 43 days just to get a result, not even just any response. So yeah, that's a big deal.
And then you dismiss the case. Once you get
wait, quick question there. So you get the summons, right? And so does the individual ever have to go in a court at all?
To date, we've not had a customer that's had to go to court. We launched in May of 2023. So about in 2 years, we have not had someone.
Really? So you send it to a court and the judge just looks at it and passes judgment and that's it?
The judge doesn't really even get involved. That's what's interesting here, because once the summons have been served, the government has to figure out how they're going to act. So they can make a motion to dismiss. They can say, we think this is a frivolous lawsuit and you should dismiss it. They can issue a motion for extension. They can say, we need some help with this. We've seen some of those, like, where we can't make a decision yet, but judge, can you give us some extra time?
Interesting. Okay.
But what we see, if they don't just outright process the application, what we typically see is a settlement proposal.
Okay.
Where the government says, hey, we don't know if we're going to finish this in the 60 days between when the summons were served, but it's in our best interest. It's in the court's best interest. It's in your best interest to just get this case dismissed. And the easiest way to do that is for us to make a promise to process your application within a certain time frame. And so depending on the application type, they will put forth a proposal and say, hey, we promise we will adjudicate your application within 60 days, within 120 days, within whatever time frame they're going to give.
And are they good on that word?
They have to be. The court will hold them to that.
Okay.
So it's a very powerful document for a pro se individual to have, to say, hey, you go back to the judge and say, we settled, we dismissed this case based on this settlement.
Right.
And they have not fulfilled their end of the bargain. and then
Gotcha.
there's actions that can be taken.
So in
Through
this whole process, are you acting as an intermediary from like a communication standpoint, or does the communication happen between the individual and the the court that they've filed it
yeah.
towards?
Yeah, we cannot, do not, and cannot communicate on behalf of anybody.
Okay.
Um, what we do is provide scripts, templates, email, you know, templates for everyone to use. So no matter what situation arises, whatever either the government attorney or the court says, there is a template response ready to go. But I'll tell you, it's not. There's
So you're
not
like
that.
a legal advisor, so as to say, like
I won't say the word advisor because that could get us into trouble, but a legal
right?
guide.
Okay.
I'll use
A
the word.
guide. Okay. A guide. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
we. Uh, yeah, I mean, most people don't end up interacting a lot. Certainly not live. Most interactions that we've seen from our customers have been via email. And there's a strong reason why I'm going to get into. Uh, I don't want to jump over your questions that I can anticipate here, but government attorneys are terrified of pro se litigants and they don't want to talk to them. And so we don't see a lot of interaction for that reason because they are so scared that they will inadvertently offer legal advice.
Oh. Okay.
Lawyers can, a government
Understood.
lawyer
Okay.
on
Yeah.
the other side of the aisle from this plaintiff, the litigant, if they start talking to somebody and they're trying to negotiate, when they're negotiating with a lawyer, there's no ethical guides for like, oh, you can't give another lawyer legal advice. So they're just having their normal interaction when they're working with a lawyer. But
Understood.
when they're working with a pro se individual, they could accidentally give legal advice. And in fact, once again, just last week, a customer forwarded me an email from a government attorney where the government attorney offered legal advice, and that if anything happens in that case, this customer now has, hey, the government attorney offered me legal advice, like
Oh wow.
it's some
So what
negotiating
people
leverage.
perceive to be a weakness because there's a lack of attorneys there is actually something that plays to their benefit in this whole exchange.
Absolutely. Now,
That's
certainly
very interesting.
there's pros and
That is
cons.
very interesting.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
one of the really big strengths for sure.
Awesome. What's been I've been getting questions. John, I'll try pull one. Oh, Steven's like, don't pull a Brad and get Raul on some list with the discussion. Yeah, Brad went on a tangent yesterday with a whole bunch of things that he shouldn't have said. I'm pretty sure I got flagged. So, uh, guys, I'm going to just a quick note to folks who put in questions, since John and I are not attorneys. Maybe it's case specific questions like what should I do in my case right now. Maybe let's avoid those questions.
Yeah.
Let's stick to questions related to pro se and how to navigate this, if that's okay with you. So I'm going to pick one that's there. An attorney filed lawsuit versus pro se pro. What are the chances of fighting and winning a case through both these routes? It's a very subjective question,
Yeah.
Anmesh. I'm going to but what I can do instead is ask John how the track record's been from a
Yeah.
success standpoint for their previous uh, mentioned, place areas that they support, like the H4EAD and the UVs and stuff. So,
Mhm.
John, how's the statistic been from like a success standpoint for you guys?
I mean, in terms of getting a response, I mean, frankly, we're at 100% of you do this and you get some sort of response. Now, I'm trying to think. We've got an active motion to dismiss yet, so we haven't had any cases that were dismissed without an application getting adjudicated. We
Okay.
do have one active motion to dismiss that. Um,
So when you say motion to dismiss, means they dismiss like whatever the pro se application that you guys submitted. Is that what it means?
yeah, motion to dismiss essentially would be like, the government says this case doesn't have any merit,
Okay.
and
Understood.
judge,
Okay.
you shouldn't even have a hearing. You should just toss it out. And
So you guys have got one of those. Yeah.
one of those where the application hasn't gotten processed. There's been times where there's been quite a few actually motions to dismiss for the person who worked with us got their approval and then never bothered to dismiss the case.
Okay.
And so the government in those cases, they've got to clear the docket. So they're like, hey,
Gotcha.
motion to dismiss because they got what they wanted. There have been a lot of those, but only one that I know of. that's still pending, so we don't have the outcome there. So the success rate, it's so high, it's like absurd. I like don't even want to say like, oh well,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
basically
yeah,
99.9%.
yep, yep.
The reason is because of the case types that we choose,
Because it's
and the
already.
legal foundation behind it. So
Yep, yep,
again,
yep.
Brad Vanis has helped build all of the templates that go into what we're doing, and so um, you're I don't you're not, Brad is not the attorney for anybody that works with us. We're very explicit about that, and we make sure
Yep,
people
yep.
know. We say it over and over again. Um, but it's his brains that are in the legal strategy.
I was just gonna say make that point, right? If you're fighting in, if Brad's fighting a lawsuit, it's the same brains that's put together the petition for you
Right.
guys and your arguments towards why to reverse whatever negative situation that you're in right now. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And since we've been active, we have seen a lot of lawyers that don't typically practice litigation, that are immigration attorneys. They're like, oh, if these people are doing it without a lawyer, then I'm a lawyer, I should be able to do this.
Yep, yep.
And we've seen a lot of cases get dismissed, frankly, because they don't have Brad's brains behind them. And so the way that the legal um, strategy was constructed and the documents were created, the cases have been dismissed, and the government has been successfully dismissing other cases. And so when you say it, what's the chances of pro se versus a lawyer? Well, actually, it really depends on the lawyer, and it depends on the way the pro se is filed. So
Yep.
it's not a question of pro se versus lawyer. It's really about how well the argument is crafted and how
Understood.
how procedurally have you followed all the correct steps.
So if let's say it gets dismissed, do they have the option to file another pro se uh, motion, or is it like a once and done kind of thing with pro se?
If you're saying what would happen if
Like let's say for an
there was a
H4EAD
motion
at
to
this point, right?
dismiss
Yeah.
filed, and then and the judge accepted and said, yes, this case is dismissed. Um, we would come up with something for that person. I mean,
Okay.
it's not a scenario that's common enough that we have like, okay, here's how we do. I think
Okay.
it would be
Understood.
very
Understood.
customized to the individual situation.
Understood. You've walked me through what a regular person would have to do through something that you guys have already, the standards you've already set in place. Let's talk about the SEVIS.
Yeah.
Let's assume I'm a student who's found out that my SEVIS is revoked, right? And I give you a call. Can you walk me through the process for this one?
Yes. So process starts out the same. Sign up, intake. That's where things diverge a little bit.
Okay.
Urgency is so critical here, with the timing of everything and the accrual
Yep.
of unlawful presence.
Yep. Yep.
And so we are recommending that these get filed in person, because so we're basically saying, here's your documents, go file them as soon as you can, hand them to the clerk, let them know
Oh. Okay.
there's a temporary, you go to the court, file it, you let them know there's an emergency motion here, and I'm
Okay.
filing a temporary restraining order, a TRO. And the clerk's ears should perk up at that. And simultaneously you'd say, and is it possible for me to get my summons letters? And every court, every clerk within every court is a little bit different. Most of them, when you tell them what's happening in the situation, they're probably going to want to help you.
Understood.
And we've done this with some H480s as well, where we just said,
Okay.
if you want to go in person, that's
Drop
totally
it off. Okay.
You can go hand it in and ask for your summons right there, and usually they'll give it to you.
Okay.
That shaves off sometimes a week, because if you have to wait on the postal service to mail you to
Yep.
get the mail
Yep.
for the summons,
Time is of the essence here,
time
right?
is of the essence.
Before we proceed, one quick question: Is it are they putting themselves in any risk by going to a government entity and handing it over? Because a lot of questions that people have is right now we're technically considered unlawful or illegal where we're staying, right? Now they're going into a government building and handing off a document. Is there any risk in that process?
There's no inherently greater risk than going to any other building. I don't, unless your face is on a mugshot where they're saying you're on FBI's most wanted list and ICE agents are camped outside of the courthouse.
Okay.
You're not in any greater risk than you would be going anywhere else.
Okay.
You're not going to go to a clerk and say, "Hey, here's my situation," and they ring a bell, and that's that's procedurally not how things are done. So,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't say you're at any different risk than going anywhere else in public.
Okay. 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 Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, so you ask for the summons. Like I said, most clerks will say, "Yeah, let me get that processed." They hand it to you, and we're also recommending that the moment that you get those summons, you serve them. And we've got guidance on serving in person. Like I said, we usually handle that and take care of that.
Yep.
Um, a plaintiff isn't allowed to serve their own summons. So I just getting into the nitty gritty here, we'll be like, go with a friend, a spouse, anybody, and they can serve the summons. And so oftentimes the U.S. Attorney's Office is in the same building or very close to where the court
Oh,
is.
so their friend takes it, goes to the same building, goes to an office, and says, "Hey, there you go."
Take the summons, serve the summons right then and there. And so
Interesting.
that's really the biggest difference here is that speed, like that speed. Now we don't do that in every case because we're not filing a temporary restraining order. We're not doing things that will force the government to act more quickly because we can't.
Right.
If we
Right.
did that, the judge would say, "This you don't have immediate harm coming upon you for what you're doing," and so it would just be a wasted effort, and it would be
Got it.
not create favor in the eyes of the judge. In this case, there is very real harm being
Yep.
done, and
Yep.
there is a very real need for this temporary restraining order. So that's
Yep.
why this is so different. And I haven't gotten the question from other lawsuits of like, hey, why don't we do this? But I'm anticipating people say, wait, if you can do those so quickly, why not these? And there's a very
Yep. Yep.
logical reason as to why not.
Yep. So, so is the document that you guys preparing and you're giving each applicant, right? Is that uh, the language that it contains? Is that asking that these charges be dropped, SEVIS be reinstated? Uh, like,
Yeah.
what would the language contain? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially the summary of what it's saying. There's a lot of
Yeah.
legal
Yeah.
language that I'm not smart. I couldn't write,
Yep.
but
Yep. Yep.
it basically says click Control Z and undo this horrible thing that you've done. But
Okay.
just I try not to use well restore. We're trying to restore
Restoration.
things to
Okay.
the way they were before.
Okay. Okay.
That's why I like
But
Control Z because I'm a big keyboard shortcut guy. So
got it. Got it. Got it. I'm going to ask a question that Nishita has asked. So, in these cases with SEVIS, is there any chance that the plaintiff goes into court once they're doing this? And if yes, how would you prepare that plaintiff in that scenario?
yeah, that is a great question. And who is that, Nishita?
Nishita, yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
thank you for asking that question. Um, more so than any of our other cases, obviously, because we haven't had anybody who's had to go to court yet. There's
yep.
a very real possibility that um, you would be asked to go to court.
Oh, okay.
If so, there's a couple of ifs. I'll go through the ifs. If the government doesn't immediately say, "Yes, sorry, our bad, we'll fix this," and they say, "No, we want a motion to dismiss or a motion to do whatever," the judge may or may not call for a hearing, in which case he would want, presumably, both sides to be there. It's possible that it could be remotely attended, but the fact of the matter is, I'm going to answer a question that's not quite asked, but I think it's an important point to make. The human side of what's happening here
Yep,
is very real and very important.
yep,
And even serving the summons in person to the U.S. Attorney's Office is kind of a big deal because if you think about these U.S. attorneys, they're just government employees, right?
yep, exactly.
They've probably been working as a staff attorney for many, many years, if not decades. They don't have a political agenda usually, and they're going to see you as the person you are in the situation that you are.
Yep, yep,
And frankly, I believe that most people deep down are good, and I think most of these people are good, and they're going to see your situation, and they're going to want the government to do what's right. Now,
yep,
the government is their client, so they're the attorney. But I'm just saying what I believe to be true, which is I think they're going to feel for you.
yep, yep.
The same goes, I think, for the judge. And so if you do go to a hearing It's a chance for you to really connect on a human level instead of being a name on a paper.
Yep.
You're a real person with a real situation that has real harm being done to them. And,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
impact of that, I think, is hard to overstate because I do think that the hearing, while it sounds scary and daunting, would actually be a great opportunity to push for your case and just tell them, I'm not a criminal. I haven't been convicted of a serious crime. And I don't know if I just made a mistake or if they're just doing this out of spite, but I should not have been removed. And here's how it's hurting me. That is a powerful story. And for a judge who looks at the code and says, yeah, that this is absolutely illegal, and they're going to be moved by that. Again, in my opinion, I think so. So how do we help prepare somebody?
That's the question I was gonna ask.
And I'll be real. This is something that's in progress, but we have video guides and resources and scripts that just say,
Oh, really? Oh, awesome. Yeah.
yeah, here's how to show up at court. Here are
That is
just
fantastic.
general
Okay.
decorum, just like things
Yep.
that you should know that someone who hasn't been to court before might not know.
Yep.
Those resources will be available to you.
Oh, that's fantastic, John. I might be, like the question that I was on the verge of spitting out or asking was, how would they know what to say? Uh, the decorum or the code of
Mhm.
conduct, or
Yeah,
would they be treated as someone who is, even though they're defending or they're kind of doing this by themselves, would they be treated as someone new in the field of
yeah,
law, stuff like that? So if your video guides, that's awesome, and resources, that'll be great. I mean, they'll put
yeah,
put a lot of people at ease, get folks more acclimated and comfortable with what's out there. That's awesome.
yeah. And I'll share my experience in court. We had a number of pending cases at one specific court, and so there was a hearing for some other cases, and the judge had a hearing that related to some of those pro se cases with the government attorneys.
Right.
And so I went to that court to attend as an observer. And at one point he said, is there anyone here from Pro Se Pro? Because
Oh,
they
nice.
knew these customers had filed using Pro Se Pro. And I was like, yes, sir. And he called me up, sat me with the lawyers, and I'm not, I haven't been to law school, so I have the same feeling and would have the same questions and the same fears as you. But now that I've been in just one courtroom in that situation,
Yep. Yep.
it was a very basic conversation. He just said, very similar to the conversation we're having right now. What what is Pro Se Pro? What are you
That's ace.
doing?
That's awesome.
And I just, without any preparation, I was just like, here's who we are and what we do. And he's like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, you weren't expecting on being called, right? So is on they just put you on the spot like that. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I've heard, and this I've had certainly conversations with Brad Bannis about this on how we would prepare people, and he's like, the judge is just going to ask people to tell their story, and so yes, we're gonna have prep and we're gonna give tools, but at the end of the day, if you have a hearing, um, most judges are um, they're they're not looking to get you.
Okay.
They're not out to, and so
Understood. Okay.
and they give a lot of leeway and a lot of grace to pro se litigants.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
okay. So they don't. Yeah. Okay. You answered that. You answered that. I was going to ask if they view pro se cases differently, or rather than regular cases. Do they have any animosity towards pro se cases or anything of that sort? But just by that judge's interaction with you, it looks like, I mean, he's probably just kind of happy that, or he or she is probably just kind of happy that justice is being served faster.
yeah. I think most judges, what they want is and this would be something to ask for Stephen or Brad, but I think they want a clean docket. They
Yeah,
don't want a whole lot of cases, and so if you can get a settlement or a case dismissed easily without a lot of work, without a hearing, that's the
yeah,
ideal.
they can focus efforts on places they need to be, right, rather
Right.
than. And I'm
Mhm.
sure there's like hundreds of other things that probably need their attention,
Right.
rather than, hey, my work authorization's been pending for 4 months. Like, are you serious?
Right. Right.
Great. That's really good. I'm very impressed with the video resources part, because this is a pain point that a lot of people have been
Yeah.
talking about in the different groups that have been in. That's awesome. How's the response been? Have you been getting a lot of traction for the SEVIS part of stuff?
Yeah. Well, we just launched our onboarding today, but I've been on the. I have. I'm a
Oh,
little.
today?
I'm a little bit hoarse. Yeah,
Okay.
we just launched our like
Okay.
opened it up today, and um, we have. So we immediately got our first one. And have I have talked. I was looking at the data yesterday on how many hours I've been on the phone with different students, kind of telling them, answering a lot of the questions that you're asking right
Yeah.
now. So we have a lot of people who are in the
Good.
process of getting started with us,
Good.
and our first one should get filed tomorrow.
Oh. Oh.
So
Wow. Okay.
that's
Back.
that's what I'm trying to say. Our first, like, we got our first one like ready and going, and
That's awesome.
but a whole lot more getting started.
So they should probably file it in the court near they live, just so that they can
Yes.
actively go in and out if needed.
And that's one of the things we provide. Each court is a little different. We provide the guidance on here's how to file in the court that's specific to where you live.
Specific to you. Okay. Okay. Another question by Nishita again. The plaintiff does have criminal records and was convicted guilty in the SEVIS scenario. Would Pro Se Pro not be a good option?
Um, we It's a good question.
Yeah.
We take the give you information and let you decide what you should do with it because we can't give legal
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah.
So we can't say if you say, "Hey, this is my crime. Do you think it'll work?" We just say, "Here's what the statute says. It says if you've been convicted of a serious crime." If you're concerned though, if you have any ounce of concern of like, I don't know if this conviction is or isn't, that's where, I would say, yeah, it probably makes more sense to go to a lawyer because we're not going to be able to give you that advice as to whether or not this is appropriate for you.
Yep.
But hopefully that answers the question.
Right. Would you recommend? See, I know based on yesterday, Brad's call. Brad said that it's going to be 6,500 to go the lawsuit option.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to go through the Pro Se option?
Yeah. So the all in is our fee is $2,000. The filing fee is 405. So
Okay, so
2405.
2,400. Would you recommend that people take Pro Se and still have, instead of going down the lawsuit option, still have an attorney to consult with?
On this specific to the lawsuit,
Yeah, to this specific to the lawsuit for the SEVIS.
I don't know if you would get a lawyer who would be willing to do that.
Okay.
That
Okay.
that would be
Okay.
because what we always tell people, and this goes maybe less to the SEVIS because I don't know how many F1 students have an immigration attorney on the retainer that they work with, but a lot of our other customers do have petition
Right.
attorneys. Those petition attorneys stay their petition attorneys,
Interesting.
and they
Okay.
continue working with them. And people always ask, should I tell my petition attorney? And I always say, yes, they should be a trusted advisor. And it's good for them to know that this is happening.
Yep.
And so, yeah, having another attorney is not a bad idea. If it's someone who does litigation, though, I don't know that they want to be an advisor for a case that you're filing pro se.
Understood. Uh, Another question that I saw popping up in different forums is: can multiple people opt for one pro se? What's the right word for it?
Yeah,
Lawsuit for
one
lack of
complaint.
one. Yeah.
No, that's the rules of pro se filing. So obviously lawyers can file group suits.
Right.
Pro se, there are some exceptions with like principal derivative benefits in immigration, but for the SEVIS situation, that wouldn't be possible.
Understood.
No one's receiving derivative benefits of another applicant.
Got it. I'm trying to rack my head and see what else you've knocked out most of the top ones that I saw popping up. There is a question by Dilip for the SEVIS termination issue. How do I start working with ProSay to file my own case? Did they just reach out to you, send you an email, phone call?
I mean, our website is prosaypro.co. I mean, we've got, and you can find our service on that page. But they can certainly email me as well. I'm John at prosaypro.co.
Okay.
So feel free to email me directly. Go to our website. Our phone number's on our website. We have, pretty normal business hours, Monday to Friday.
Got it. And John's also part of the Area 151 community group that I run. So there's one specific channel for SEVIS Terminations. So if you guys want to, you guys can join that. I'll also in the episode description put a link to the prosay website, and I'm sure you'll find all the details you need to reach out to John and the team from there. Any closing thoughts, John? I'm out of questions. You've answered all of them. I think you walked us through. And folks, if you guys have additional questions on how to proceed or anything, we can always do follow up sessions to this if John's open to coming back.
Yeah. Okay.
But we can always do follow up sessions to this. But I think for now, to kind of what's the right word for it? I know a lot of folks asked me because they're not convinced between either a lawsuit
Yeah.
or the pro se option. So most of my questions here was tailored towards giving you the information so you can actually make an informed
Mhm.
choice.
Yeah.
Do you want to go down the lawsuit, which different attorneys have different price points? We heard Brad yesterday, and versus the pro se option, which is 2,405, which is the pro se fees plus filing. So you know the risks from both. You know the process for both. So yeah, any closing thoughts, John? Uh,
I mean, it would just be to express gratitude for everyone that's here, that for listening and for being an F1 student. And I know Rahul, I express gratitude for the H1B community all the time. As a U.S. citizen, value so much what you do for our country, and selfishly, I boost our economy, and then just like all of the other kind of fringe benefits of diversity and business growth and entrepreneurship and ideation. And so I am sorry that you're being treated this way, and I am glad that you're here. And if we can help, we'd love to. But if you have questions, yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. And once again, thanks for being here in this country. Thanks for pursuing education here. And yeah, I'm sorry for how you're being treated.
that's very kind of you, John. And yeah, thanks for everything you do to the for the immigrant community. And this is not the first time you've stepped up. I personally know you've helped with her film Alien. Prosay stepped up, gold sponsor for that. So you've always stepped up to kind of champion the rights for the immigrant community. So thanks for that. And yeah, I'll drop all the info in the chat, and if folks want to reach out, they can. And then if you guys reach out to me as well, don't worry, I can kind of redirect you to John. Okay. And and yeah, hopefully you guys are able to fix this soon and get back to your normal lives. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, thanks again, John.
All right.
Thanks for making
Thank
time
you.
today and for
Yeah.
everything you do. See you soon back on the
Thanks
podcast.
for having me. All right.
Take care, guys. I'm gonna stop the stream. Okay, done.
All right.
That was good.